mic close, okay. Yo, so I'm doing a ranger guide for today. I was forced to play it in the touring because I had to panic pick because I couldn't use priest. So now I've been playing it more often and stuff like that. Because it's actually pretty fun. And the more I played it, the more I realized it's actually a busted class. So despite the name being ranger, it works better as a melee class in my opinion. It makes the stuns easier to hit, and usually when you have an enemy stunned and they're in front of you, you're capable of doing combos much more easier and consistently. So currently Ranger isn't used by many people in the game, but what I have to do is show how busted it is, so others can use it, because I want to see more Ranger players. So yeah. So what are we talking about today is the moves it has, combos, and afterwards I'll probably have some gameplay demonstrating how it is in action, so you can get a gist or visual representation of what I just explained. Alright, so to start it off, I'm going to start with the LMB. The LMB for Ranger is one of the best and most consistent LMBs in the game, in my opinion that is, as it does 8 damage. The projectile's on the slower side, but the white hitbox more than makes up for it. You are also given only 2 LMBs, or 2 boomerangs, forever or permanently, but you can use it in succession, so rapidly, or you can use it slowing, alternating, allowing yourself to always have one boomerang with you to keep as a safety measure. The best way to be consistent with the LMB is just the same old saying, is just playtime. You're going to need to get used to learning how much you need to lead your shots, depending on your distance from your opponent. So the basis for that is just the further you are, the more you lead, and the closer you are, you're pretty much hit scan. Even if you miss your LMB, they can return on hit. They can not return on hit, but hit on return. They can only hit on return when the person receiving the hit was already not hit by the boomerang, so each LMB can only hit for a damage of 8, but if you miss and it comes back, you can still get that 8 damage, so that's still pretty good. Onto the Q, it's probably my favorite ability from the kit, as it gives you so much survivability, and with it, it allows you to have a movement option getting you out of danger, and it can also be used as an option to basically engage into a fight. I wouldn't rely much on it for its damage, even though it's 10 damage and it's more than the LMB, but I wouldn't rely for damage, as the hitbox on it is sort of weird, as sometimes it looks like you're hitting, but it doesn't really register the hit, so I wouldn't rely it too much on damage, but even if you get that 10 damage, that's still a pretty good advantage you'll have, as some of the times it'll whiff and sometimes it won't, but if it doesn't whiff, you can get a thumbs up from that. Alright, moving on to the E, it makes doing combos pretty easy. Without it, you can still do combos, but it's gonna be hard to do, and you're gonna be missing out on a bit of extra damage without it. But basically what it does, when you use, you'll see an animation. It applies electricity onto the boomerangs in your hand, and when you use LMB or Q, it shocks your enemy. And basically what shock does is applies slow to your enemy, and it shakes your screen. But the shaking the screen part doesn't really matter. The thing that matters is the slow, as when your enemies are slowed, landing your combos are going to be much easier to do. But keep in mind, this does not replace one of your LMBs, as usually you have 2 LMBs. It doesn't make one of the LMBs a shock LMB and the other one a non-shock LMB. It makes a separate LMB, so you're going to have 3 in total. 1 shock and your 2 normal LMBs, so you're going to have a total of 3. So adding that up, you'll have 24 damage if you hit them all. So what makes this better than the LMB overall is that it's much larger and wider, so it's even easier to hit. But not only that, it also does 8 damage like the LMB, but it also applies shock as well. And with that, you're able to hit 16 damage with one use of it, as you're able to get a returning hit, unlike the LMB, so it can hit outgoing and a return, resulting in 16 damage, which is much better than the LMB, as the LMB can only hit once. Also, do not, I repeat, do not use your E or shock with Q unless you know you're gonna kill with it. As in my opinion, it's sort of a waste to do, as the boomerang on return can save you in a lot more circumstances than just going in with a shock dash. As for the last ability, it's the F, and it's basically the combo starter for the class. And what it is, you have a startup animation, and after that's over, you're gonna be throwing only 2 boomerangs in a circular formation. That ignore terrain and do 10 damage each. But keep in mind, if the 2 boomerangs hit one enemy, or it can be multiple, depending if they're powered up. But if the 2 boomerangs hit an enemy at the same time, you're guaranteed a stun. So you're getting a stun and a free 20 damage on top of that from the 2 boomerangs hitting, as the 2 boomerangs do 10 damage, which is 2 extra than the LMB and the E or shock boomerang. There are multiple ways of landing the stun, but there are primarily 2 ways of landing them, which I'll get into right now. So the first way of stunning your enemy is landing your opponent with the X that's at the end of your F. Usually when you use F, you'll see an outline that's pretty much at a distance away from you. And in simpler terms, it's basically a diameter where you are point A, the player, and the X is point B. And all you have to do is get your enemy on point B, and you're guaranteed the stun. But usually if you do the stun, you're only guaranteed a stun and 20 damage. You're not guaranteed much after, as it's a distance away they are from you, so you can't really follow up from that. As for the second way, it's the best and most consistent way of landing the stun, as basically how to do this. You're basically in point blank range with your enemy and you're touching your opponent. You're guaranteed the stun due to the 2 boomerangs hitting, and after that you can follow up with other moves that are guaranteed to land due to you being close and the stun time. Keep in mind, you have to be touching your enemy to do this, as if you're only in front of them, you're going to be taking the risk that the boomerangs will just whiff and just circle around them, wasting your F. Onto playstyle, there are two main ways you can play the class, which are very different from one another, each being useful in different circumstances. The first one being which I prefer playing the most is the hyper aggressive style, as you're just rushing at your opponent, shocking and stunning them. You can use your Q either to deal damage or dance around your opponent to confuse them, or both at the same time. But basically you're just being very aggressive, and when you land your stun, you're going to be dealing a crazy amount of burst damage. The other playstyle, which is boring but much safer and more consistent than the first, depending on the player, is just playing Ranger as a ranged class. We're just poking at your enemy, chipping them down with 8 damage at a time, and then hitting them with 10 damage from one of your boomerangs from the F. And then usually when they're low enough, you rush them down with a small amount of burst damage. It's safer to do, but I find it boring to play. As for the combos, there isn't a general basis to follow off, since most of the kit has no to disable, so you can sort of spam them and they can work out. But the main combos you want to get used to would be just one, and after that you can just freestyle off the rest. So that one main combo you want to get down is E, LMB, Q, LMB, which results in 26 damage. And basically the rundown about that is you throw a charged boomerang, cancel into a dash, and an LMB, which deals 26 damage in a second. Keep in mind you can deal an extra 8 damage on the return from the E, but it's more than likely it will miss, since your opponent's going to be moving and they're not going to be just standing there, you know. So it's going to be 26 damage and an extra 8 if you get lucky with that returning shock boomerang. So once you're comfortable doing this consistently, you can move onwards and sort of freestyle your combos. And one of the freestyle combos I like to do is E, LMB, Q, LMB, like as we previously said, the 26 damage. Then after that you use F for the stun, and then LMB during the stun, and then right before the stun wears off, you do Q and LMB, resulting in 70 damage, and your enemy is shocked afterwards. This combo looks sort of difficult, but once you get used to doing the first 26 damage portion, you would not have any trouble doing any of these combos. Keep in mind the damage for these combos can be even greater, as you can also account for the E boomerang on return hint, as for near a wall it'll come back faster, and usually if you're near a wall you're able to use your LMB much faster, as when they hit terrain they come back instantly, so you're able to get a extra 2 or 4 LMBs depending how close or far you are from the wall. But all you need to remember is the 26 dash combo, and you'll be perfectly fine with everything else. Alright, I've pretty much gone and explained everything that's in the top of my head that I could think of. So for now, I'll be giving the gameplay. So everything I just said makes sense with visuals and gameplay and stuff like that. So here you go.
But hey, you're ready back to back. Just on the running on a midnight train. Back to back. Conscience is swimming to the air. Back to back. Cannot let anyone do it again. Back to back. I can no longer pretend. Give me a break, you down. Just wanna get by my dance again. Lazy down, what a heavy day. Now you hear the rumble from the ground, yeah. Trick, cheat, frog like drown. Chance of God is standing back to back. Just on the running on a midnight train. Back to back. Conscience is swimming to the air. Back to back. Cannot let anyone do it again. Back to back. I can no longer pretend. Give me a break, you down. Just wanna get by my chance again. Lazy down, what a heavy day. Hey, hey, hey. With a clown and had a high old time. Nobody doubted he is true of purpose. Oh yeah, not knowing we had given up everything we had lived. All of the options, the next drop here in this dead end. That's about. That's a heavy day.